Tonight, we're taking a hard look at the public finances of Walker County, Georgia. We have pored over more than a decade of their official audit reports, and let me tell you, the story they tell is a real roller coaster. We're talking about a near-total financial collapse, followed by a truly remarkable recovery, and then a very sudden, very alarming change of direction. So let's get right into it. So here it is, the central mystery we're investigating. Picture this. In 2024, Walker County does something that's almost unheard of for a government. It pays off every single penny of its long-term debt. I mean, zero. An incredible achievement. But then, just 1 year later, boom, spending explodes by over $35 million. How does that happen? How do you go from the poster child for fiscal discipline to a massive spending spree in just 12 months? That's what we're here to find out. But before we can really dig into the timeline, I need to equip you with one simple tool from the Taxpayer Toolkit. There's one specific number buried in these long reports that tells you almost everything you need to know about a county's financial health. It's the key to the whole story. Okay, here it is. It's called the unrestricted net position. I know, it's a classic piece of government jargon. But forget the fancy name. All you need to know is that this isn't money that's already tied up in buildings or equipment. This is the county's ready cash. It's the money they have on hand to pay deputies, to pave roads, to handle a sudden emergency, all without having to take on more debt. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it like this. It's the county's emergency savings account. It's their rainy day fund. If this number is positive and hopefully growing, that's great. It means they have a healthy cushion. But if this number goes negative, well, that's a massive flashing red light. It means the government is effectively broke, living paycheck to paycheck with no ability to handle a crisis. All right, now that you know what to look for, let's rewind the clock to the first chapter in this financial saga. And it's a dark one. We're calling this period the era of crisis because, frankly, Walker County's finances were pushed right to the absolute brink of collapse. Now, this wasn't a sudden event. It was more like watching a train wreck in slow motion. The downward spiral really began around 2013, when huge, unfunded pension liabilities suddenly appeared on their books. A year later, their entire net worth just fell off a cliff. Then came a massive lawsuit, and by the time 2017 rolled around, they had finally hit rock bottom. Just to give you an idea of the scale of this collapse, in one single year, fiscal year 2014, the county's net worth dropped by more than $15.5 million. Let that sink in. Losing that much in 12 months isn't just a bad year. It's a sign of a deep, systemic failure. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it did. The county got hit with an $8.7 million court judgment. This wasn't some planned expense they could budget for. It was a financial sucker punch that landed when they were already on the ropes, and they were in no position to handle it. And here we are, the bottom. Remember that emergency savings account we talked about? By 2017, it wasn't just empty. It was more than $7 million in the hole. The county had absolutely no cushion left. For all intents and purposes, it was broke and operating on borrowed time. Looking back at this period through the lens of the official audits, there's only one grade we can possibly assign. It's an F, a complete and total failure. This was an era defined by out-of-control spending, mounting debt, and the complete collapse of the county's financial foundation. But incredibly, the story doesn't end in that financial crater. What happened next is one of the most dramatic fiscal turnarounds I have ever seen in a government report. We call this chapter the Great Correction. Just look at this chart. I mean, really look at it. They go from being over $7 million in the red in 2017 to having a surplus of $27.5 million by 2021. But they didn't stop there. By 2023, that emergency fund was sitting at a massive $43.5 million. That kind of comeback is almost unbelievable. It took years of tough choices and incredible fiscal discipline. And this was the crowning achievement. As of the 2024 audit, Walker County had zero long-term debt. Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Every bond, every loan paid off. For a government to do that is the financial equivalent of climbing Everest. So the grade for this era? It has to be an A plus even. There's no debate. To drag a county back from the brink of bankruptcy to being completely debt-free with a $40 million cushion is a masterclass in responsible government. It set a whole new standard. Which brings us to the climax of this investigation, the most recent audit for fiscal year 2025. Because after reaching that financial summit, after doing everything right, The data shows a sudden, sharp, and deeply perplexing turn. Let's go right back to our key metric, that all-important emergency fund. In 2024, it was sitting at a very healthy $41.1 million. Just 1 year later, it plummeted down to $28.9 million. They burned through over $12 million of their hard-earned savings in a single year. So you have to ask yourself, where did all that money go? Well, here's your answer. Spending. The 2025 audit shows that total government expenses skyrocketed by $35.2 million. That's not just a small increase, that's a complete reversal of the discipline that defined the last era. It's a spending explosion. And the audit tells us exactly where the money went. The biggest slice of the pie, over $19 million, was spent by Public Works, mostly on road projects. Public safety saw its budget jump by more than $9 million, and general government spending rose by $3.4 million, a lot of which went to increase salaries and benefits. So this brings us to the multi-million-dollar question, doesn't it? After years of pinching pennies and making tough choices, why did the county suddenly open the floodgates? Was this a strategic, one-time investment in critical needs, or was it a reckless abandonment of the very discipline that saved them from ruin in the first place? To answer that, we have to look beyond the big spending numbers and dig a little deeper into the audit itself, because what we found raises serious questions. It's time to render our final verdict and assign a grade to fiscal year 2025. Now, this is a critical finding, coming straight from the auditors. They flagged a significant weakness in what's called segregation of duties. In simple terms, that's just Finance 101. It means you don't have the same person approving payments, writing the checks, and balancing the books. It's a basic safeguard to prevent errors and fraud. The auditors pointed this out last year, and in 2025, it still wasn't fixed. The auditors' language couldn't be more blunt. On this fundamental issue of financial controls, their official finding was just 2 words: not corrected. So think about that. At the very same time the county was embarking on a massive spending increase, they were failing to fix a basic known weakness in how they handled taxpayer money. For all these reasons, we have to give fiscal year 2025 a grade of D. You have a huge spike in spending, a nearly 30% drop in the emergency fund, all happening while a critical internal control weakness went ignored. That combination represents a significant and dangerous risk to taxpayers. And this leaves us with the final nagging question. We know Walker County can achieve an A grade in fiscal health. They proved it. So was 2025 just a one-off, a strategic investment for the future? Or is it the beginning of a slide back to the F grade failures of the past? For the taxpayers watching, the answer can't come soon enough.